This is our daily Astro Tarot. We have no major arcanas today, which is, something noteworthy because we typically have at least one every day. But it doesn't mean that there's not some kind of work showing up on the table. Our opening card is the Seven of Cups. The challenge that we're facing today is the Six of Swords. The way we're going to get through the challenge is the Nine of Swords, and then the overall outcome of the day is the Ace of Swords. So, lots of time being spent, quite literally, up in the terrain of the mind by way of all of the swords that are showing up on the table today. This opening card of the Seven of Cups is pretty telling. Right now we have the Sun in Virgo, we have Venus in Virgo, and there's like this critical eye being put towards things. We're starting to look at the details of certain situations and things that we've gone through, perhaps over the last year. And sevens are numbers of learning and learning from experience. But this is also, a card that is in the suit of cups. So something of an emotional quality and reflecting over things that we feel like could bring us happiness. So a lot of times, the meaning that is placed on this card is this illusions around what's going to bring us emotional happiness, right? Because we see that this person is looking off in this cloud, and there's these seven cups filled with seven different things, whether it's, the castle of riches, or the jewels, or victory, or the partnership, or, the spiritual attainment, or, victory of challenge, and going to far off lands. We see all of these different kind of symbols kind of being put in front of us in this card. And it's as if we're taking a moment to reflect on places that we've put our energy in, if they've brought us fruit to our labors and our efforts. And it's an interesting card because, we just had the full moon in Pisces, and Pisces is this energy of reflection and dissolution, like breaking things down or dissolving things so they can be brought back into form. It would be like the butterfly that's turning into goo before it can really be transformed into its next phase of being and becoming, quite literally, right? And this full moon has been pretty intense for many people. And so it's put us in a place of reflection, and some of that can put us in, places of the mind, which is something that I feel like I should probably speak about because we have three sword cards on the table today. We have the Six of Swords, which is this challenge of moving from a place that's turbulent to a place that's more peaceful, right? Like, how do we find balance in the realm of the mind when it's kind of stirring up our emotions and taking us to these places of illusion, right? Because Neptune has also been in the sign of Pisces, coincidentally enough, and kind of bringing to the forefront some of the illusions or daydreams that we have around things that we think if we attain that will bring us happiness, right? That will bring us everything that we've always aspired to acquire or attain in life. If we just have this one cup, or maybe two cups or three cups, and there's a certain amount of distraction that happens in that place, right? Because if you're actually trying to transverse this body of water and the inner dialogue that's going on in the mind is in a place of turmoil or feeling unsatisfied and kind of being in a place of daydream, then you may lose the opportunity or lose the space and resource of time that you could be putting your energy and effort towards. So how do we transverse this realm of the terrain of the mind, particularly if it puts us in this place of the Nine of Swords, which is interesting because it showed up a couple of days ago. And it is kind of pointing to this energetic of being kept up by the moon and kept up by, you know, inner dialogue and stories that we have going on up in this space of our mind that create a place of unrest in our world, right? It's like that terrain that the mind always goes to when it has a moment to drift, right? And where are we letting our mind drift to? Which brings us to the energy of the Ace of Swords, right? The ultimate outcome of the day. And that's interesting because we have all these swords on the table. The Six of Swords is showing up as our challenge, right? What is being given to us as something to work with right now. The way we're going to get through it is the Nine of Swords, which is some kind of completion around the way that we see things. And then the ultimate outcome is the Ace of Swords. So while it can be pretty overwhelming to be spending, quite literally, all of our time up in the mind, working over things that bring us to a place of question or unknown, it's something to consider, you know, when we have focus, what we can get accomplished with that versus when we are in a place of distraction or a place of unrest and turmoil because of all of the things that we're thinking about, right? So if you, for instance, you know, have a number of things on your plate that are commanding for your attention, I actually would encourage you to place your attention in a different aspect of your being, right? Because the only problems that really get solved by the mind are like math problems and problems around planning and strategy. And yet we even see that when we go out into experience, all of the planning and strategy that we've put our time toward only takes us so far, right? We have to actually be in the experience rather than in the ideal of the experience to actually work through whatever is there. And that takes being in the body. And so if you find yourself drifting, right, mindlessly or mindfully, wink, wink, into the terrain of the emotions or into the terrain of all the different things that you feel like you need to think about, perhaps it might be useful to bring yourself to a moment of doing something with the body instead, like taking yourself on a walk, for instance, because the seasons are changing and colors are turning and there's a lot of things going on in the outer world that can bring you out of your mind and bring you to a place in your body where it will bring a place of rest and relaxation for the mind that will actually allow clarity to come through, right? Because sometimes when we're stacking all the variables together, it can be overwhelming, right? We can find ourselves in this place of the Nine of Swords. But ultimately, if we're in this moment, we can see what's important to us. And a lot of those swords drop away and we find ourselves with one single sword of clarity of where we need to put our attention and our resource of time and, you know, how we can cut through all of the illusion, which is so interesting to me because all it takes is one sword to cut through all of the illusions that we're being distracted by. And I think we will discover that sword today. We are in a time of a waning moon, which means that the moon is getting smaller, right, as it moves toward a new moon. And so I encourage you to let go of the things that aren't useful to you. and to let go of the illusions and the distractions, and to bring yourself into the present moment, into the body, to give yourself a little bit of relief from the mind. I send you all a lot of love and a good wish today as we are feeling the turn of the seasons. I've been processing a lot of peaches because I picked up a big case of peaches from a local ypcomong spot, and I'm making all kinds of things. I made peach hydrosol as something just to play around with, and then I also made a peach infused vinegar that I'm going to be selling at a local festival here in a couple of weeks. And then of course, I made some peach goodies to munch on and nibble on because peaches are just divine. I hope you're enjoying this season and are doing well, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.